Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our final passage through America. Brazil and Canada tonight sees us into the closing 2 weeks where a new Drivers' Champion looks almost certain to be crowned. Last time out, we saw our two leading drivers claim a victory each, which is brilliant battles in the United States and Mexico, cementing this as one of the greatest fights in the league's history. The championship gap stands at just 8 points. Jack Hickman for now edging his rival, despite having won 3 races less. It really could go either way. You'd be a fool to predict a winner, even at this late stage. Both Aidan Griffiths and Matt Tibbles remain contenders themselves, but the Constructors' fight seems more of a realistic goal for both of them. Red Bull currently leading the Constructors by 16 points, with Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin and Williams all still with a chance too. So welcome down to qualifying for Brazil. We've got Brazil and Canada to come tonight. The rain is out and we're here, and it's also going to be a wet race. I think it's the first wet race of the season, I believe, fully throughout. It's going to be Glock and Hickey, the two title contenders that are currently on the front row of the grid, just a 10th between them. Both drivers will have another lap in this session to try and find a bit more time. The rain is definitely coming down, but it looks a lot less than it did earlier on in this session. There's a chance that lap times could start to tumble as the drivers find more grip out on those tricky conditions. Dan the Man, P3 at the moment, 83 poles in the league's history. Dan the Man, I don't mention it very often, but he is the best man when it comes to qualifying here in TGB1. Alistair Bain, currently 4th quickest, ahead of his teammate, of course, Red Bull leading the Constructors' fight, but with Haas just 16 points back, and Glock currently setting the pace here in Brazil. There's a real chance that Haas could close that gap down. Let's see if Aidan's finding time or if he's about to peel into the pit lane and end his session. He is going to cross the line. Whether or not it's going to be improvement, we're about to find out. He comes to the shortest possible route and goes 4th ahead of his teammate. He's on the second row of the grid, and that is the time that he needed to get himself a little higher up in this qualifying session. Still a minute and a half to go. We've got Glock, the quickest so far, a 1:15.3.12. 2/10 clear of Jack Hickey, who is just leaving the pit lanes to start his final lap in this session. Will it be a case of last driver across the line to get the best possible time? Looks like the rain is sort of set at a current pace at the moment, so it should be drying out in the final closing stages of this session.
Oh, Phil.
Phil Bardwell, 1:15.2, the new quickest time. Where's that come from? It's not going to last long, though. His joy is going to be broken very quickly because Glock, round the final couple of corners now, is finding more time. He's a 10th up on his own lap. Will he take pole position away from Phil Bardwell? 1:15.2 to beat a 1:15.2 dead. He goes 600ths of a second quicker than his rival. What about Dan the Man? Dan the Man's not finding time out there. He's going to start a new lap very soon. Aidan's finding time. Alistair's finding time. Where can the second Red Bull go in this session? Is it going to be enough to get him on the front 2 rows himself? He needs to find 2/10 to clear Dan and Jack Hickey, and he stays 6th. He doesn't find that time. He lost it. So it's not what he needed. What about Aidan Griffiths? Can he jump Dan the Man? The Red Bull driver looking to get himself back on the second row of the grid. Doesn't quite do it. He stays P5. So who out there is finding time? Jack Hickey, purple in the first sector. Phil Bardwell also out there now in the middle sector. Not sure if he's on another lap or not, but he's got 600ths to find, and there's a spinning AlphaTauri in front of him, which I believe is Jovial Manatee.
Ah, shit. I had to continue my spin to get out of Phil's way. I wasn't on a lap. Oh, okay.
Let's see the sector times then. 1:15.2 is the time to beat from Glock. We think he is going again, just in case it's needed. Let's have a quick look to see if he's going to find even more improvement in this session. Phil's time is done. He's not going to be finding any more time. He starts second at best. Glock, that's pretty much predictable, is finding even more time. 1:15.2 now becomes a 1:15.160. What can Jack Hickey do? He's finding 3/10 of a second. At the moment, he would be 3,000ths behind his title rival, if he finishes his lap with a final sector. The Aston Martin driver to the line goes quickest, a 1:15.110. He finds even more time, and it's now down to the likes of Aidan as Alistair goes into 4th, displaces his teammate down another position. What can Aidan do now around this final straight? Can he get himself back ahead of his teammate? He needs a good result. He is still in the fight for both championships, but he stays P5. Doesn't find the time he would have liked. And now it's all eyes on Court Hill 5. A few Dutch fans have made the short trip to Brazil to cheer on their home hero. And they are going to be very disappointed to see that he starts P10.
forgot that Brazil was next to Holland.
Yeah, it's just a short 20-minute drive.
More Dutch fans here than in Sanford.
Yeah. Jack Hickey then takes pole position. It's 2 on the bounce. He's had 4 this season. What a lap time it was to displace his rival. At the start of the year, it really did look like Glock was going to have the extra legs on the Aston Martin man, but Jack Hickey has really come alive in recent weeks, and that is his 2nd pole in a row. Can he make it? 3 wins from 4 races by winning here in Brazil. His title rival starts alongside him on the first row of the grid. Phil Bardwell, an excellent P3. We've seen Phil in the past get involved in an incident with a title contender, of course, Fishy. He cost Fishy the title. Will he cost one of Jack or Glock the title this season? He's right behind them on the 2nd row of the grid. I am a little scared for Jack and Glock. I hope he don't get anywhere near Phil into turn 1. Phil, are you going to go for this win, or are you going to play it safe like you should have done a few seasons ago where Fishy was fighting Corey? Or are you going to go for it?
Going for the win.
Well, he's going to go for it. I think Fishy...
Well, the rain looks heavier, but it's still saying inters.
It does look
It's also going to dry
very
up
wet.
towards the end.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah, mate.
Well then.
From Corley.
Well, any drivers start this race on the wet tyres. Inters appear to be the best bet from Pirelli, but look at that downpour. It's absolutely treacherous. Maybe wet tyres might be the way to go. It's going to be very interesting if we'll see a split strategy here, but we're also hearing it's going to dry up towards the end. Well then, we know Alistair's gone intermediate tyres. You can see his green rubber in the pit lane. We're about to go racing here for round 17 of the season. It's a full wet Grand Prix at Interlagos. The 2 title contenders are on the front row of the grid. This epic title battle at Brazil gets underway, and Jack Hickey gets a steady start, but Hickey already sort of finding a bit more traction on the outside. This Glock will go down the inside, up into the lead of the race, and Phil Bodger's got to be very careful not to tag Jack almost into the side of the Aston Martin driver. The top 2 for now remain top 2, but they've swapped positions. Further back, you can see Stina battling with Court. Those 2 not getting the best starts. It's Filippo Chiappelli, actually, who's now behind his rival. And you can see Jack Hickey trying to make sure he stays ahead of the Williams of Phil Bardwell, while the 2 Red Bulls 4th and 5th. At the moment, that'll be 22 points against Hazard's 25. If it was to stay as it was, Dan the Man is down to 7th behind CJH. Not the best qualifying for CJH, but already, oh my god, CJH he's having sexual intercourse with Dan the Man's car at the moment.
I don't know what is going on with the clear.
Looks like there's some lag going on for the battle for 6th and 7th. And Glock with the start. Glock with the best start in this race. Jack Hickey appeared to get the better one, but then Glock just found that little extra confidence going into turn 1, and you can see the top order all starting to align now. Kieran ahead of Cena. We've got the AlphaTauri of Manatee going for a move on the inside of one of the Mercedes drivers. Mr. Chiappelli now down to 14th position, back with his battle with Court for the rear end of this field. The few Dutch fans who made the short trip to Interlagos already starting to lose patience with Court and starting to head to the exits. So Jack Hickey finds himself already 1.2 seconds adrift of Glock. 1:21.6, a solid opening lap. He got the best start, he pulled away, and already has a bit of breathing space between himself and his title rival. As things stand, the championship would be dead level. They would both be on the same number of points with 5 races to go, but Jack Hickey needs to make sure he stays ahead of Phil Bardwell in a second, because Phil is already starting to mount huge pressure on the title contender. Jack Hickey, look at the confidence that Phil has over his rival. Jack Hickey's really struggling here as Phil gets a bit twitchy and almost loses the back of his car at turn 4. Dan the Man remains behind CJH. Aidan and Alistair settled for 4th and 5th. Will we see a swap there between those 2 drivers? We shouldn't see any pit stops unless the dry conditions do appear towards the latter stages. We've got Ollie Hart, who's in the wall. Will that be an early safety car or virtual safety car appearing in this race? The AlphaTauri driver now at the back of the field, which promotes Court into the points. Good news for the 2 remaining fans. They're still in the crowd and aren't giving up hope just yet. Mr. Chiappelli is fighting Manatee for 12th position. Both these drivers have had a solid start. However, a couple of rough races lately have found them drop down the championship ever so slightly. Mr. Chiappelli eyeing up Manatee now, getting as close as he's been all race. The gap at just 2 tenths. Will he find a move into turn 1, or is he just too far back? Looks like he's going to be too far back for Manatee to be worried about that one. Manatee will himself try to hunt down the Ferrari of Evan, who is currently running 11th and stuck behind Cena at the moment. But you can see Mr. Chiappelli getting ever closer to the AlphaTauri, almost losing it on the back end there. For now, Manatee appears to have the position, but Mr. Chiavelli appears to be the quicker driver in this race as Phil Bargewell continues to mount extreme pressure on Hickey. Maybe Hickey knows the championship here is on the line. He can't afford to crash out with this race. Could it be a 26-point swing as things stand, with Glock also taking the fastest lap in this race? He needs to just make sure he gets home in one piece. Jack Hickey, first of all. The win would be great, but 18 points is not the end of the world. He would still be tied at the top in the championship. But Glock, with a 2.5 second lead, can now start to maybe ease it down a bit and focus on controlling the pace. The two Red Bulls running 4th and 5th.
Rain's getting lighter, but it's going to take a while to dry out, apparently, Jeff said.
So we could see some stops towards the very end of this race as Glock just continues to set quicker and quicker lap times. The 1:59 already below the 16s has been a fantastic start for the Haas driver, really starting to refine the pace we all saw from him at the first half of this season.
Alistair, if you have more, use it.
Well, C2H is now hunting down the two Red Bulls. You can see now on the back end of Aiden's Honda. Alistair, will we see him pull over to let his teammate through, or will he hold position? It looks like he's got good pace at the moment. He's a couple of seconds back from Phil, but we know Phil is under some real turn of pace at the moment. Phil Bargewell really impressing in the leading Williams driver. Jack Pearson's having a good race in P8 at the moment. Kieran and Evan completing the top 10. Mr. Chiavelli is still behind Manatee, who himself now is just 4 tenths adrift of Cena, trying to get through on the other Mercedes driver. The two Red Bulls will be sort of hoping that Jack Hickey can win this race, because that would really help their chances of the Constructors' site. At the moment, they're going to lose 4 points to their rivals. It'll be down to 12 points. Both championships are wide open. Great to see, with just 5 races remaining after this one of the season. Of course, Canada will be coming with us shortly after this one, and next week we may have a new circuit in Saudi Arabia. If not, it will be Imola instead. Let's see if Aiden gets close enough this time to make a move on Alistair into turn 1. Just not close enough to do that. And C2H likewise behind him. Dan the man sort of settling for P7 for now. A lot of these drivers sort of in single file at this part of the race. Glock this season has won 6 races, and also does now finally pull over and let his teammate through, but he's got to be careful not to let C2H through as well, because C2H is very close to the second Red Bull.
Also,
he's going to go for a move.
Battery left, so use yours on the straights.
No battery for the Alfa Romeo of CJH, and I can confirm the battery is at 27%. So he's sort of used.
Do you know that, Aiden?
Because he's so slow on the straights.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering how Aiden knew that, but there you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, he always uses his in the dry from the get-go, so I just assumed.
Well, Glock leads this race 3 seconds. Jack now finally with almost a second gap over his rival Phil, finally starting to maybe get his confidence back in these conditions. Of course, Glock and Hickey racing on different methods. We've got Glock on the pad and Hickey on the wheel. Different circuits will favour different methods, but it looks like at the moment it is definitely suiting Glock. He is 3 seconds clear of his rival as C2H. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Maybe it was lag. C2H remains ahead of Dan.
No, I nearly went round the outside.
Okay, sorry. Jack Pearson now has a chance to line up the Alpine driver. Can he get through on Dan the Man? Dan the Man is sort of having a mixed season. He's had a few good moments, a few bad ones. Of course, I can't forget Zandvoort, where he decided not to check his fuel load on the final lap, and of course ran out of fuel, costing himself a podium finish. Aiden, you can see now 1.2 clear of his teammate. Looks like Alistair did make the right decision to move out of the way, but now that Alistair will not have his brother right in front of him, that could allow C2H a better opportunity to get through. But there's a real train behind this second Red Bull, isn't there? You've got C2H, Dan the Man, Jack Pearson and Kieran, and then Evan right behind him, with Manatee still stuck in a Mercedes sandwich between Cena and Mr. Chiavelli. But both Mercedes do have time penalties in this race that will be applied at the checkered flag, so Manatee would finish ahead of both as things stand. And you can hear a few hisses from the fans, and that's because Court has picked up a time penalty himself. The Dutch fans The 2 fans that were still in the stadium have already left now. They're leaving the gates. They've had enough. There is officially no Dutch supporters in the stadium. Of course, they took a liking to Court during the TGP Drive to Survive on Amazon Prime. But unfortunately, Court is now showing the drivers the fans that they've wasted their time. Wasted trip, unfortunately. Court down in P14. Both McLarens running 8th and 9th at the moment. Jack Hickey, as I say, almost pulls a second clear of Phil Bargewell. He's now clear of his rival by a bit more of a safe gap. But Jack Pearson ahead of his teammate Kieran. The gap at just 6/10. Will we see Jack maybe move out of the way of Kieran later on in this race? Of course, Jack does have a time penalty himself, so it may be of an advantage to the team if he lets Kieran have a go at Dan, who is still sort of struggling to get anywhere near CJH. The gap's sort of been within a second for the last 7 laps now. The Alpine driver just can't seem to find anywhere on this circuit. None of these drivers can find anywhere on this circuit to overtake. Phil's been stuck behind Jack for a while. We've got CJH still stuck behind the 2 Red Bulls. As Glock goes even quicker at 1:15.8. The gap now at over 4 seconds. Glock looking like the championship is going to come down to 0 points after this race as things stand. Jack Hickey holding on to second for now.
I lose all my time in the middle, so...
Phil Bargewell's recent upturn in pace has sort of handicapped the Red Bull team in a way, because both Ada and Alistair now find themselves at a further position down as to where they would normally be. Phil Bargewell sort of cutting out the mistakes that he was making a lot at the start of this season. And Phil Bargewell looking like he's going to take yet another podium finish as CJH picks up another 3-second time penalty, which is good news for Dan the Man, and Alistair ahead of him. Of course, during a wet race, no pit stops are needed. There is not a mandatory stop, and it is not the better call to do so, unless tyre wear is quite significant, but it should be absolutely fine here, so we won't see any drivers appeal into the pits unless they need a new change of front wing, or if the conditions completely change later on in this race. Phil Bargewell now 7/10 adrift of Jack Hickey. That gap starting to come down a little more. Dan the Man's just 4/10 behind CJH. That gap ever coming down more and more. Roy still stuck in that Mercedes sandwich, and Kieran still behind his teammate. Not a lot of overtakes going on in this race, sort of single file throughout the field. A nice train of cars behind Alistair Bain, who's currently running 5th place and now 2 seconds adrift of his teammate.
Cheers, Jeff.
So slow in the middle sector. No front.
Whoa!
Oh, down the man's round! He's off the circuit! The Alpine driver spins off and resets the track, and the game automatically doing that for him, and Dan the Man now down to P10, just lose the back end of the car, and now Cena's going to go through around the outside. Dan the Man doesn't appear to have any damage, so he should be fine to carry on, but now Cena's through, and Manatee will be coming up to try and pass the Alpine very quickly. Dan the Man, what happened there?
Just lost it on the curb.
Well,
Went too wide and got a penalty as well for it. But it reset me to the track because obviously I was going into like the field or whatever.
well, Dan the Man, not what he needed in this race. His horrible form appears to be continuing this season. Very inconsistent pace from the Englishman. Theo Hickman cheering on his brother. Alex Afro clicked the screen because he thought it was actually the Brazilian Grand Prix of 2021. Unfortunately not, Alex Afro. This is the TGP1 race around Brazil. Dan the Man, oh, almost. We saw a beautiful view of Cena almost spinning round there in front of him. Dan now down in 11th place. Of course, will still score points as things stand. The top 14 score points in TGP. So Dan the Man is at least going to get a handful of points still. The finish in 11th, 4 points at the moment. A couple come 5 if he can clear Cena. Let's see if he can get through on the Mercedes driver on the run up to turn 1. He's looking much more quicker than the Mercedes driver. He may even get him before the start finish line. Dan the Man will pull to the right, will he? Cena will look to defend, but Dan the Man might find this too easy. He'll brake a bit later into turn 1, unless Cena can get the brake and bang on, which he appears to have done. Dan the Man will still be there, and up on the inside, side by side, they fight still, and Cena holds position. Fantastic racing there from the two of them. Dan the Man will have a second bite of the cherry on the run down to turn 4. You can see behind him, you got Manatee and Mr. Chiavelli fighting as well, but Dan round the outside almost. Cena keeps ahead, keeps P10, and Dan the Man has to settle for another lap behind the Mercedes driver. But look how much quicker he is on Cena. He's really finding it hard now to set the pace that he wants to in this race. He's already about 8 to 10 seconds adrift of where he should be. CJH now in pretty clean air in position number 6. He's got a 3-second gap to Kieran, so no pressure theoretically on CJH. He may be able to pull that gap actually. With of course his time penalty, his clock goes even quicker, and their gap now up to 5 seconds with another 6 laps to go in this race. Another chance for Dan the Man to get through on the Mercedes driver, maybe even before the start finish straight again, because the extra pace and confidence he has up this hill. And Dan the Man and Cena in the wall. Dan the Man lost the back end of the car, and it looked like he may have tagged Cena because of it. And that is a safety car in this race.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Cena.
Huge drama here in Brazil, and like Felipe Massa, Dan the Man's getting out of his car and he's in tears. He's in tears. Cena out of this race, and Court dives into the pit lane. He pitted for wet tyres. I'm not quite sure. Have you been on wet tyres the whole race?
Yeah, I started on wet tyres.
Oh wow. Well, the rain's still coming down. I don't think it's ready for dries. I suspect this will be a call for intermediates. But this does close the field up, doesn't it? And poor Cena has been taken out of this race, and Dan the Man scores a point because of it, but Cena does not. He is credited 15th. So Court then, and you can see the Mercedes pulling off at turn 1. Court now back behind Ollie Hart. Court almost having to come back into the pits again because he almost clipped the wall on exiting the garage.
I was using the ERS through that corner, and obviously I shouldn't have done that, and I feel really bad.
Well, Glock starts his 13th lap. There is 6 laps to go in this race, and his 6-second lead is going to be washed away because Jack Hickey will now bunch up behind the Haas driver. You suspect Glock should still have enough in that car to just keep pulling the laps he's been doing, because he has had some serious pace all race, uncontested from anyone else, and now he picks up the back of the safety car. We will have a couple laps behind this Mercedes, and then we should have a 4-lap dash to the very end of this race. Cena scores no points. Dan the Man will be 14th. Not what either driver wanted. Cena, you do have to feel for him. Was having a good race, but Dan the Man losing the back end, lost the car, and unfortunately for Cena, straight into his rival. So Jack Hickey then.
In battle with him as well.
It was a great battle. But this, of course, is bad news for the likes of those who already have
Roy's
time
on softs.
penalties.
Roy's on softs.
Roy's made the call for soft tyres, and it is still raining. But if he can catch up to the back of the safety car and it stays out for another 2 laps, there is always the chance that this could work out well for him. Could we see another new winner in TT1? Luca needs to be careful here and not rush an overtake coming out of the pit lane, because, of course, Manatee is always going to be slower, leaving the garage on those tyres. Now, what's going to happen in this race? We've seen in the past how this can work. It may be raining now, and Roy may be significantly slower, but when that safety car comes in, if it stops raining, all the drivers would then peel into the pits, and Roy would have that lead, having started, or at least pitted for the right tyres during the safety car. But it's still raining, so I'm not sure it's going to work out, but there is the chance it will dry out. So I'm not sure what other drivers have heard, but Manatee, it's got to be worth a risk, surely.
Oh, awesome.
How is it, Roy?
I can tell he's struggling.
Well, this may well delay the safety car for another
Who's
lap.
the lead Alpha Tauri there? Is he in
He
front
can't,
of
he,
that?
can't, he can't get up to the safety car queue.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Jack
because he
Pearson.
can't catch up the safety car.
Jack Pearson's seen what Manatee's done and now pits himself for a new set of soft tyres. He's also going for the call. And it's not working out for Manatee at the moment. Look how slow he is going out there. He's going to be, look, if Mr. Chiappelli caught on, he can even catch this safety car queue, because Manatee's setting such a slow pace.
Oh, Jack spun in the pit lane! Jack spun in the pit lane!
Oh no!
Jack
Jack's on the pit lane,
track.
he's reset to the track, and how's that happened? These conditions are not quite ready for dry tyres, you have to say, but Jack Pearson Look at this. He's really struggling on those soft tyres, not taking it as cautiously as Manatee. And you can see why Manatee is able to keep it on the track and Jack Pearson is not, because he's pushing a bit too more. And of course, when the safety car comes in, they'll be pushing even more. So if Jack Pearson's spinning it at 40 miles an hour...
You nearly lost it.
Lost it. Let's go back to this pack. The safety car may stay out for another lap because these have not caught up with the pack. There's still 4 cars still a few corners behind the safety car. Manatee might be better here, slowing the pace down to making sure there's one more lap with the safety car. The safety car will find out very shortly if it's coming into the pits or not. Jack Pearson is caught up with the back of the pack. The safety car, we're about to hear any moment now if it's coming into the pits this lap. It is.
Oh, for God's sake, Roy.
Roy.
It's okay. Roy will catch up with the pack. Roy will catch the pack up, you suspect. Glock will have to now start to back them off on the run up to turn 1. We're going to have to go to the front. I'm sure there's going to be a spin from Manatee, but we have to stick with the front because this is for the championship. As things stand, the gap will be nothing. It will be 0 with 5 races to go. But it can all change in a moment. Glock needs to hold this nerve here, keep this race lead. The safety car is in the pits and Glock has gone already. Glock leads this race and already Phil Bardwell attacking Jack Hickman. It's not the start the Esteban driver needed. Phil Bardwell's in 4th, Aiden's in 5th, Alistair 6th and Phil up the inside of Jack Hickey. The 2 Red Bulls getting racy behind CTH up into P5. Alistair has dropped a position already, not what the Red Bull drivers needed in this race. But Jack Hickey crucially ahead of his rivals still. Evan has jumped both McLarens thanks to the pit stop for Jack and the slow start for Kieran. So Evan up into P7 now. Manatee is dropping back very quickly. The rain is still coming down here in Interlagos. It looks like it has reduced a little bit, but it's still coming down. It will not be good for Manatee reading this. He will already be about 30 seconds adrift after the first couple of laps in this race. But CJH ahead of Alistair. Alistair is aware that CJH has a penalty though.
Jack's actually not doing that bad, you know, he's staying with the pack.
That is a very good point. Jack Pearson is doing alright out there. The soft tyres are starting to come to these drivers. So if it does suddenly stop and all the drivers come into the pits, Jack Pearson could win this race. Come on, stop raining. It's still coming down. There's only 3 laps to go. But Jack Pearson has some good pace here. On the soft tyres, Manatee is 4 seconds back. Manatee is struggling a bit more than Jack Pearson is. Jack Pearson pushing a bit harder here. He knows he's got nothing to lose in this race. He could well snatch the victory.
No, it's disabled, it said.
Oh, sorry. Are you new in this, Luca?
Yep.
Well, you can see Kieran all over the back of Evan. Can he get through on his rival? It may not be enough for Jack Pearson to win this race, but I don't know how he's doing so well on those soft tyres. It's still chucking it down. I don't understand. Manatee's 4 seconds adrift at Ollie, but he's now sort of set at a pace as Kieran looks to get even more racy, and Jack Hickman is staying within a second of Glock. So Glock with a 6-second lead, looking like he's in control, now has to defend from Hickey with a few laps to go. Jack Pearson's attacking his teammate. The soft tyres are working here. But unfortunately for Jack, I don't think anyone else in front's going to pit. There's only 3 laps to go. Make that 2 very shortly. Jack's going to try and move the inside of his teammate, and Kieran lets him go. Jack's up to 8th on the soft tyres, and Manatee's just gained 4 tenths on Ollie Hart, his teammate. Jack Pearson almost loses it behind Evan. It's getting drier out there. Jack on the inside of the Ferrari driver on the soft tyres, makes another position. He's up to 7th. He's gained 2 places and 2 corners. Jack Pearson's finding time out there. Can he win this race?
It with all you can, stop him getting up here.
Well, Jack Pearson's got lots of penalties, so maybe better else just to let him go. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but look at it. It's getting drier. DRS will be enabled very soon. Look at this. Alice is going to be a sitting duck on the run up to turn 1. DRS is enabled. It's now time for dry tyres. Jack Pearson can win this race. Alistair doesn't need to fight this, because that Jack will just move up the field and maybe even take points off Glock, which would help Red Bull even more. Alistair now behind his Manatee sets the fastest lap of this race, 3 seconds quicker than Ollie Hart's that time. Jack Pearson can win this. It's too dry out there. Jack Hickey
got 6 seconds of penalties though.
Jack Hickey is 7 tenths adrift of Glock. The gap's coming down. It's still raining ever so slightly, but DRS is now ready to be used for the drivers, which means it's dry enough for those dry tyres. CJ is 2 tenths off Aiden. He's having to defend for his life on P4 and P5, and Jack Pearson's now on the back of that train. It's a shame there's not more laps in this race, because this is going to be a thrilling finish to this Brazilian Grand Prix. CJ all over the back as Jack Pearson goes around the outside and through into P5. He goes up another position. He needs to get through on Aiden now to try and get P4. Aiden tries to block the line. Jack Pearson will go around the outside and gain another place up into P4. Jack Pearson's flying out there. But there's only going to be 1 lap to go. It's a shame he's got the 6-second penalty, isn't it? Jack Pearson gets another penalty. It's another one. That's now 9 seconds, and now it's going to be a last lap fight between Jack and Glock for this
I'm
race
worried about him
victory.
killing that. Bloody hell.
Manatee
His pace is
is up into
unbelievable.
position 10. He's gained another place as Jack Pearson sets the fastest lap of this race. That takes a point away from Glock. Jack Hickey would lead the championship by 1 point. As things stand, Phil Bargel with a 3-second time penalty. Good news for Aiden, just needs to stick within 3 seconds of his rival and he will get the podium. Jack Pearson, round the outside of Phil, takes third in this race. He's up into third. Manatee is going to get Kieran into P9. If he goes on the inside, a beautiful move. It is quick enough for the soft tyres. Manatee goes even quicker into turn
He's
one.
going to end up winning the race on the road.
Yes, he is. Jack Hickman. He might just pull out the way here. He's only 4/10 himself adrift of Glock. The two men at the front of the championship are fighting for the victory, but Jack Pearson's going to go around both of them. Round the outside of Jack Hickey into second place. And Jack's now going to take the lead of this race if he can get through on Glock. Jack Pearson has the pace, has the power, and takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. And if he can pull 9 seconds in 2 corners, he will do it. This is brilliant stuff. Manatee's up to 7th. He'll gain more places with Phil and CJ Hayes getting time penalties. In fact, it may even be ahead of Jack Pearson. It could be 4th place for Manatee here as things stand. Glock's going to finish 2nd in this race, but it's going to be enough to win. Jack Pearson crosses the line to provisionally win the Brazilian Grand Prix, but Glock takes it back from him. Jack will get 2nd. Phil Bargewell is 3rd. Aiden just about snatches it, and Manatee may get them all. He goes 4th. Manatee takes 4th. Mr. Chiapelli was telling him to hurry up. Well, he did just that. He's P4. What a race from Manatee, and my heart breaks for Jack Pearson. That means Jack Pearson extends his record of most race victories lost by time penalties. It is now 12 races he has lost in TGB history because of time penalties. Manatee,
Well, that was fun.
driver of the day.
Oh man, that was
Like
funny.
so.
I was there just like, hang on a minute.
Oh, why couldn't there be more laps? One more lap, and I think Jack or Roy would have won that race.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a penalty trying to pass some fucker in the middle of the sector. I was like, for fuck's sake, like.
Well, Manatee's fastest lap was, well, 3 seconds quicker than anyone else, other than Jack. Phil Bardwell got 5th in the end. What a result it was for him. Alistair managed to get 6th place, so 24 points to Red Bull, 25 to Haas. Crucially, the fastest lap from Roy allows Jack Hickey to remain in the lead of the championship, but just by a single point. Both championships are wide open here. Jack Pearson still managed to finish 7th, although I'm sure he may be a bit upset at losing out on that win. He would have won it if it was not for the time penalties he picked up during the race. Evan was 8th, Kieran was 9th, and Mr. Chiapelli, P10. Court gets a few points for 11th. CJH only 12th in the end with only 13th. Dan the Man in 14th, and Cena not scoring any points here at Interlagos.
I had wing damage. I should have been on the podium.
That was fucking
Oh.
I got
I-
two fucking penalties at the start, and I was like, for fuck's sake, it's gonna fuck me up. And
I
then,
binned
yeah.
it on the lap the safety car came in. Well, I'd nearly binned it. I went off at turn 4 and went into the wall.
You could have actually won it.
I could tell it was drying up because the fucking rear end was sliding about on the inters. Like, I'm just gonna gamble it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh well, no what? These things happen in Formula 1.
Oh god. Meanwhile, I just was having a battle with Cena and was the worst driver of the two.
Well, we're getting a few angry comments in the stream. Of course, Cena is the fan favourite in TGB. There was a poll not so long ago of who is the most popular driver on the grid, and Cena won with 99% of the vote. He was the most popular driver by far. Court got the other 1% from his Dutch fans. But Cena, unfortunately, not scoring any points in Brazil. Will he score some points in Canada? We're about to find out. It's the next race of the championship, and there's just 1 point in it. Jack Hickey, a point clear of his rival. 5 races to go.
Can I mark that down as a win? I think I'm just gonna mark that down as a win. Literally, I was like, for 2 laps, I was like, oh, move, just get out of the way, and no, he was just parking it. I'm like, mate, I'm faster than you, by just fucking move.
Well, Jack Hickman says Jack Pearson is the GOAT until he crossed the start-finish line.
Yeah. Well, did you not see my fucking 9 seconds worth of penalties? Because, ah, dear.
Well, Jack, as I always say, if you don't want the time, don't do the crime.
And this time I did the crime, paid for it. Okay.
What could have been for Jack Pearson winning the race? What a shame you had time penalties. Why did you have to cut those corners earlier on? Because that would have been some story had you won that race. Having made the call to dry tyres. I said it could work for both drivers, and it did just that. Manatee, in the end, finishing 4th. It was definitely the right call. I think he was running 10th or 11th. Of course, stuck between those two Mercedes drivers. So Dan the Man spinning in that race and taking out Cena gave Manatee a huge surprise.
I hope it rains here. Fucking do it again.
Well,
I hope it rains here as well.
Let's see if anyone's going to get kicked out of the session for not readying up. It's going to be Evan or CJ Hayes.
Correct. Hayden, you finished ahead of CJ Hayes in that race.
I did, yeah, and he was running some stupid ass moves. I'm like,
I was like, I'm just going to overtake and I'll just park it a little bit. I'll just park it a little bit on the exit to like one of the corners.
Oh. Boo. Oh, boo.
Boo.
The one where I wanted it to rain.
Nice and dry. Jesus.
Fuck's sake. Oh well, this thing happened. Does that move McLaren off the bottom of the championship now?
Well, in the end, McLaren scored 14 points.
Could have been
Mercedes, of Luca and Cena, only scored 5, so yes. Mercedes are now last in the championship.
Some thought it might never happen, but there you go. These things happen in Formula 1.
Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren at the back of TGB1. Meanwhile, Red Bull leading.
What is the gap to Haas?
Well, before that race, Red Bull led by 16 points. The gap is now down to 15.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Ah, finally some grip.
Yeah, tell me about
What are you on about? I've had this for about 3 laps. Oh shit, no. I'm probably going to get disqualified here.
Yeah, penalties could decide a lot of positions.
Yeah. Be careful of turn 3, is it?
Court went round the corner, so the camera decided to pan, but obviously there was advertising boards, so the camera was just panning with advertising boards. And oh my god. There's the thumbnail.
Who's sponsoring this race?
Rolex.
Okay.
Not Bet Noon.
Not Aramco. Oh.
Heineken.
Oh, you mum.
Jackie Stewart basically turns up at all the races sponsored by Heineken. Because he has a deal with them.
This guy's getting paid fair money for it.
Did you see he called it the Mexican Grand Prix the best race of the season and stuff?
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Has he not watched any races this season?
I don't know.
Doesn't he have dementia? Sounds like it.
I don't think so. I think
got
someone
what
in
you
his
got,
family
haven't
did.
Or was it his wife?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
I'm surprised he's allowed out of the house. I feel like I've got too much grip. Jesus.
I've got way too much on this stuff.
Oh, fuck.
I feel as though this entire lap just basically comes down to how well you do the final chicane.
How I didn't get damage, I will never know.
What was that?
That was me.
Fox in the bite.
Oh, fuck off! Oh, fucking do one.
Evan then, with 14 minutes to go in this session, the first laps have been completed. It's Evan quickest with a 109.5, 2 tenths clear of Phil Bargewell. A very good time from the Ferrari driver. Alistair currently third, with Dan the Man alongside him in fourth. 5,000 separating the two Alpine drivers. Glock only sixth on his first run, 110.8, and then Jack and Luca, the only drivers to have set laps so far on this session. As Cena now comes up towards the line, where can he go? His first time lap in this session. Dan the Man is out of qualifying.
Oh.
Cena only goes 9th.
I just disconnected.
Ah.
You can get back in.
Purple sector 1 for Ollie. Is Ollie suddenly going to just find pole position out of nowhere? The AlphaTauri driver finished only 13th in the end in Brazil. Scored a couple of points despite the spin early on, thanks down to the safety car. But it was his teammate that took all the limelight in Brazil, finishing 4th. A huge result for Roy's hopes of moving up a couple of places in the championship. Jack Hickman gets that lap time in this session.
I can't get back in, can I?
Yeah.
What can I do then? His first time lap in this session takes the race in line to the start finish and goes 7th ahead of his teammates by 500ths of a second. Dan the Man is back in this session. Good to see. So 1 point is the difference between Glock and Jack Hickey in this title fight. Which of these two men will be our new Drivers' Champion in TTB1? We will know this time in 2 weeks. And it's Glock at the moment, P6, Jack Hickey P14, as Jack Hickey now starts his first lap of this session. Glock was quickest in the first and second sector, but has now chosen to dive into the pit. So maybe it's because he'd already done a lap on those tyres. He wants to come and get a fresh set to make sure his tyre weight is not as bad for the race. So Aidan Griffin's yet set lap time in this section. We've got Kieran about to finish his first time. It's Alfa Romeo. CJH goes up into P6. Let's see what the McLaren of Kieran can do. If he can get that final sector right, which it looks like he's just about going to do, he should find himself sort of around the places of his teammate and the Mercedes drivers on the medium tyres. Goes up to 7th. That's a very good lap time on the mediums. What can Jack Hickey do then? He's gone purple in the middle sector. The Aston Martin driver needs a strong result here. If Glock wins, then suddenly the momentum is very much with the Haas driver. He has a 1 point lead in the championship, hardly anything. If he can win this race, it could be back up to as much as 9. Very nice final chicane, keeps it tidy, and now will hit the shortest run to the line. 109.5 to beat for Evan, for Hickey, sorry. He goes 3/10 quicker to beat Evan into P1. So Evan then invalidated his lap time. He's now going again, but it looks like he may have invalidated his next lap as he probably went over the final chicane. We've got CJH, who does very well around this circuit, up to 2nd now. Aidan Griffins is on his first time run. Let's see what he can do. He invalidates. He validates. Maybe the curse of the commentator there. Mr. Chiapelli, what about him? He's improving. The Mercedes driver looking to get a bit higher up in this order. As Phil Bardwell starts his next time, that will go to him shortly. See what he can do. Mr. Chiapelli will want to get himself inside the top 10 if he can, maybe even a top 8. Crosses line, goes 6th. A very good time from Mr. Chiapelli. Very much top Manx man at the moment. Phil Bardwell invalidates. Very easy to do around this circuit. Evan's done it. Phil's done it. Aidan's done it. And unfortunately for him, they're all going to have to return to the pits and go again in Glock. Now the pressure is starting to apply to the championship contender. He's P10 with just 9 minutes to go in this session.
Oh, fucking me sideways.
I heard you hit the wall there, Jack.
Fucking I hit the wall, you never went through the bastard. Jesus. Invalidated. What?
How much time is remaining?
8 minutes 20.
Enough.
I think you've invalidated then by the time.
I just said this to kill himself.
Anyone know what the pole lap is?
Not 192.
Hickey, quickest so far, 109.225. Almost 3/10 clear of anyone else. CJH second at the moment. He'll be very happy to be starting on the front row as Singh stand. Evans third with Manatee in P4, 109.711. Good lap time from him, but now attention's turned to Glock. He starts another lap on the medium tyres. So Glock now is maybe trying something different here. He's pitted for the medium tyres, maybe well aware that there's many safety cars in TGP at the moment. Probably better to start on the medium tyres, get as high as you can, go long, and try something different. So we're seeing different strategies then from the two title contenders. The margin just a point, but even with the medium tyres, it's the purple sector one for Glock. He is signing some extreme pace. If he takes pole in the mediums, then we may as well all just go home. This is some serious form from Glock at the moment. Very careful through that chicane, not invalidating. He needs to make sure he gets a lap on the board. This might still be just a bank lap. He may go back in on the soft tyres later on and improve at the very end of this session. Maybe trying something different, seeing if it's possible to do a split strategy compared to his rival. But it's a purple first sector. It's a green middle sector. What is his time going to be in the final stretch to the end? I don't think he'll get pole position, but it could still be enough for second on the grid. If he can find 6/10, he'll go ahead of CJH. Over the final chicane. Keeps it clean. He may even get a slight toe from the AlphaTauri ahead of him. Glock to the line. Goes second, just 2/10 off his rival, and on the medium tyres. Only one man is yet to set a lap time in this session. Aidan Griffins. You can see two cars not getting in his way at turn one, which I'll be happy to see. He needs to get a lap time on the board. Red Bull under extreme pressure now in the constructors' fight. Alistair, only 8th quickest. Make that 9th. Still Bargewell ahead of him. Kieran in 7th. A very good lap time from the McLaren driver. Court's in 5th. When did that happen? Well, it looks like Court's... Well, I wonder who Court's got in his room right now with him, who he's got on the controller. Is it Isaac Gillison, maybe? Well, possibly. P5 for Court. Maybe he's gone AI and let the AI set the lap for him. Because he's gone 5th quickest.
Oh,
Aidan.
wow, that's a big curb.
Needs to be careful here. Needs to get a lap time on the board. Maybe worth just taking it cautiously through the final chicane to get a lap time. And he's done it again. He's invalidated. Into the wall he goes. He's going to need to go back to the pits. Get a new front wing. Get one more attempt in this session. At the moment, Aidan starts 15th. But we all know that when Aidan starts to the back of the grid, he usually wins the race. So maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. Court, 5th quickest at the moment. Do not adjust your sets. I thought for a moment he was going to find even more time. Now what's crazy is Court's only 4/10 adrift of the pole time. Dare I say it?
Fucking shit.
Pole position for the Dutchman. We've got the top 10 all in the pits, so we turn to those further down the field. Dan the Man
Is this Merc on a lap? Who is it?
will be 11th at the moment. We've got Cena on a lap in the Mercedes. We've got Jack on a lap in the McLaren. We've got Aidan, I think, on a lap 2, or maybe returning to the pits with that front wing damage, of course, he sustained.
Oh no, the traffic.
On the previous run, we've got Aidan, I think, in the way here. Dan the Man will be hoping he gets out of the way. Sharpish. Might not lose him any time, but of course, seeing a car in front of you always does sort of put you off. Dan the Man is through on both those two cars. Can he get a respectable lap time in this session? Dan the Man, 83 poles in TGB1 history. He's good when it comes to Saturdays. Not so good when it comes to Sundays. Could have one more win, but famously let Jonas through stupidly at Singapore, even though Jonas was 299 points back from his rival with 2 races to go. Dan the Man, oh, it's a very silly line into the final chicane. He turned in too early and you could see that was coming. Dan the Man crosses the line. Where does he go? I don't know where it would have been good enough for.
A 109.0.
There would have been pole position. Dan the Man now has to get back to the pits quickly because it's going to be very tight.
second lap upset, that would mean
It's going to be very tight as to if he can actually even get another lap in this session. Dan needs to get back to the pits ASAP. Well, let's see who out there is improving. Jack Pearson, 14th at the moment. Stays 14th. The top 7 in the pits still. Phil Bardwell has gone out onto circuit, as has Alistair Bain and Mr. Chiapelli. So let's follow Alistair then. The Red Bull driver, currently the leading Red Bull driver here in Montreal with his teammate down in 15th at the moment. Alistair goes second! He goes second! A 109.2 for Alistair Bain. He goes second quickest.
Conversion, well done.
What a lap time from the Red Bull driver. And that's not good news for Haas, because now Glock finds himself behind Alistair Bain. Ollie Hart, what's he going to do? Stick it in the wall almost at the final corner. He's not going to be finding time in this session. Dan the man returning to the pit lane. What's Phil Bardwell going to do? To the line on the medium tyres. Can he go quickest? He goes 8th. Mr. Chiapelli's finding time. He's a 10th up. This could be good enough to go back into the top 4 rows of the grid. To the line. Where does he go? He goes 3rd. Mr. Chiapelli goes 3rd. What's going on? What a lap time, Mr. Chiapelli. Top Manx man. What a lap. Where did that come from? Unbelievable scenes. The Mercedes garage.
I think the track's getting quicker.
I think even Wolf can't quite believe it. He didn't bother turning up today. He thought there was no point. But he's now on his way to the track. Now he's just heard Mr. Chiapelli is P3 at the moment. CJH, he's finding time in the first sector. Could CJH take pole position here? Glock is still in the pit lane. He's only now just left and he's gone on to the soft tyres.
Out the pit lane.
Dan the man needs to get out there. 1 minute and 10 seconds is all you need to get a lap on the board. The final driver's now leaving the pits. We've still got Alistair, Manatee, Kieran and Dan in the garages. CJH finding more time. He just needs to find 3/10 and it could be pole position for himself. A first pole in the league possibly for CJH. Round the final chicane. If he gets this tidy, it could be an unbelievable lap from the Alfa Romeo. Is it going to be the shortest line to turn 1? It's not. He's going for the racing line. Crosses the line. Where does he go? He stays 5th. He lost all the time in the final chicane, so maybe lost it. Took it too cautiously. Mr. Chiapelli back in the pits. Jack Hickman is finding time out there. Aiden's going to start again. Cena's going again. Aiden might get a tow if he's close enough at certain stages of the track. Jack's not finding time. Phil Bardwell round the final chicane. Is he going to find even more time? He shouldn't do. Did we just see Phil cross the line? I'm very confused. Cool out there at the moment. Evan's found half a second. He's about to smash it. Evan's about to go on pole by 3/10. If he can get the final chicane right, the Ferrari driver could be on course for his first pole position in TGP1. This has been some laps so far from the Ferrari. The Haas now starts his final lap, so keep an eye on Glock. But what can the Ferrari do? He's kept it tidy in the final chicane. This is going to be pole position. Provisional pole for the Ferrari. To the line. A 1:08.7. 5/10 quicker than anyone else. And Jack Hickey is a 2.5 down. This lap time's not going to be improvement from the Aston Martin. Can he have more tyre life to go again? Glock's invalidated the first sector. CJH, what can he do? He's finding a 10th. Glock starts 5th at best at the moment. This is quite an incredible qualified session. CJH stays P6. What can Core do? Can Core go quickest of all people? Aiden Griffin's in the Red Bull. Let's go with him. He's invalidated again. He's not going to get a lap time in this session. Kieran's finding time. And Court stays 7th. Glock, I think that's qualifying done for Glock, right? He's not got time to do another lap.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, I'm invalidated again.
Down the man! I don't believe it. He starts no higher than 11th. It's now down to Jack Hickey. Can he find 0.5 of a second? Or is Evan going to take his first pole position in the league? Well, he's found 0.2 in the middle sector. Here's Jack Hickey. He's finding time. Glock is out of this session. He starts on the 3rd row of the grid. Not where he needs to be. Just 1 point behind his rival. He's only 2 places higher than Court. How embarrassing for Glock. Jack Hickey now. Can he take pole position away from Evan? I hope he doesn't. I hope Evan gets his first pole in the league, because that would be some story. Round the final chicane. Very nice from the Aston Martin driver. To the line now. The shortest run. What can he do? A 1:08.7 to beat. He doesn't do it. A 1:09.0. He finds time, but it's not good enough to take pole position. Aidan Griffin's invalidated. He's not finding time. Cena's not finding time. It's only Kieran, Manatee, and possibly CJH who can find time in this session. So, Mr. Chiapelli, P4 on the 2nd row of the grid with Alistair Bain. What a lap time from him.
Isn't Glock on the mediums of that lap?
Sin's in the
Dude,
way.
I didn't realise
Oh,
it was
I don't believe
Wow.
it. Cena
Fucking
was
virgin.
in the way of Kieran, and Kieran, who could have got pole himself, starts 7th instead. He found a 10th still, but lost a few tenths at least.
I just did a 9-2
Yeah.
again. I didn't
Mr.
realise it was
Chiapelli.
fucking Nissan Next.
Let's go to Mr. Chiapelli live. Mr. Chiapelli, P4, what do you make of that?
I'm over the moon. I can't believe it.
Well, what a lap time from Mr. Chiapelli. Of course, Mr. Chiapelli has 2 kids, the same amount as Softy, and he now has a second row start here in Canada. What a qualifying session. Well done to Evan. Well done to Alistair and Mr. Chiapelli. Well done, Manatee. B7. What a qualifying grid. And of course, Glock does start on the medium tyre, so he may well still have the best possible strategy for this race.
Sorry,
Jack Hickey will be hoping there'll be no appearance from the safety car or VSC this time.
Sina's asking when did I block you?
I didn't realise it was this on next lap. I went again on the fucking last attempt and did a 9.2. I would have been fucking 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I would have been right up there. As well.
It wasn't until Dom mentioned it he was at Aidens and Valdez. I was like, no, I haven't. What are you on about?
Well, these things happen in Formula 1.
That's an interesting grid.
I don't like the look of that grid.
I like the look of that grid. Yeah.
Also, hold your nerve, please, because you're up there.
I'll try.
Yeah. Fucking hate this track. I used to get fucking bombed.
Not the
views of TG series.
Does anything good actually come out of Canada apart from Latifi?
Oh god. Alright, let's do this.
Here we go then, the Canadian Grand Prix. What a grid we have here. It is all mixed up. And as Mark Brundle would say...
I like the look of that grid. That's an interesting grid.
The Canadian Grand Prix, 5 races to go. 1 point is the difference between the 2 title contenders, and neither of them are on pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix. We've got a new driver, a new pole sitter in the league. Evan, the Ferrari man, right in the perfect spot for this Canadian Grand Prix. So lights come on screen, 3, 4 and 5. Lights go off, and we're racing here in Canada. What a start it was for the AlphaTauri further back of Manatee. Good start for him. Glock already racing alongside the AlphaTauri, who's tagged the Red Bull, and Glock tagging Alistair, almost maybe spinning him round, but Evan crucially keeping the lead of this race. Does their damage on that Haas for hitting Alistair? Look like they got very close between the 2 of them. Of course, Alistair needs to stay ahead of the Haas driver. Those 2 are fighting each other for the constructors' battle, and now Manatee all over the back of Glock, who himself is now going side by side with CJH. The 2 of them side by side in this corner, both going very fast. And Manatee has to concede the position down to 7th, but what a start it was for Evan. We've got the Williams in the background going side by side with Kieran. Phil Bardwell looking to get through on this grid. Of course, Glock on the slower tyres, needs to keep it cautious in these opening few laps, as those on soft tyres will undoubtedly have the faster pace. But we saw Glock was only a few tenths off pole despite on the medium tyres, so he does very much have the pace on the medium tyres too. Jack Hickey will want to clear Evan and set some serious pace in this race, because at the moment Glock is looking strong at the end to pit for the soft tyres and go to the end and be the quickest when it matters most. Jack Hickey, I thought for a moment, was going to line up a move there on his rival. Lovely shot through the final corner.
Oh my god.
That's going in the season review. What a shot! No drivers pitting on the opening lap then, all single file strategy. We suspect it'll be medium or hard tyres. Aidan Griffiths has made no progress so far. Ollie's round for the second time tonight. The AlphaTauri driver not facing the right way as Aidan Griffiths continues to try and work his way up through the field. He's getting 1 place in 1 lap. He will now try to get down the man, who himself trying to work his way up through the field, and down the man behind Cena. Of course, TGB1 fan favourite Cena. Of course, we saw down the man in Parc Fermé getting booed by the crowd, as is the popularity of Cena in CGB. But let's go back towards the front, because that's where the action appears to be. And Mr. Chiapelli, what a start in P3. Look at this shot, facing back towards the driver's face. Fantastic stuff. Alistair Bain a second behind now, already almost out of DRS range. He will need that DRS, otherwise Glock will be all over him as soon as DRS is active. You can see Glock just 3 tenths behind his rival, getting closer and closer despite being on the slower tyres. But yeah, Alistair Bain needs to hold up Glock here, because these 2 are fighting one another for the Constructors' Championship. Phil has passed Kieran, they're going side by side, the 2 of them. Looks like Kieran has dived into the pit lane, which is why they swap positions. Evan, fastest lap of this race, a 1:11.0. 7/10 clear now of Jack Hickey, who himself has Mr. Chiapelli behind him. Mr. Chiapelli will not want to get involved in that title fight. He'll be very careful, I'm sure, with Jack Hickey. Alistair Bain starting to close up on Luca now. He's picked up a time penalty early on in this race. Not what he needed for his podium chances. Of course, very much a podium chance for Mr. Chiapelli. Maybe not so much now with the time penalty, but still a long way to go in this race. And Jack Hickey will be happy to see that Glock is stuck behind Alistair and Mr. Chiapelli still. It was crucial for him that Glock didn't make too much progress at the start of this race. Jack Hickey needs to set some good pace because it's going to be Glock who sets the pace towards the end of this race, as Aidan now up into P11 ahead of Cena. Court gives Phil a friendly little nudge to say, get a move on, hoot the poodin. And now Phil Bargewell will start to attack Manatee, the AlphaTauri driver, harmless to defend. DRS will be inactive for Phil Bargewell as he tries to get through, and Evan from the lead of the race gets a 3-second time penalty, as does Mr. Chiapelli, not what either driver needs so early in this race. And now Jack Hickey with a glorious chance to win this still. Court now will attack Phil Bargewell, who's got a bit of a bad exit, but comes straight back up again to Manatee with that DRS, and Court almost tapping the back of Phil for the second time in a few laps. But Phil Barger's had some good pace here on the medium tyres in this race, and Glock still stuck behind Alistair, who now is starting to get the advantage of DRS from Mr. Chiapelli, who himself is 1.2 adrift of Jack Hickey. So now Glock needs to start clearing these cars soon if he's to come back into this race later on. I hope we don't get a safety car or VSC towards the end. It does seem to be an occurrence at the moment in recent races, because that would just hand Glock the victory with a free pit stop to the soft tyres at the very end. And even if he doesn't come out in front of the lead, he would have the quicker tyres and cruise past the drivers, you'd have to think. Let's go on board with Jack Hickey now. This is the closest he's been to Evan. Evan's starting to lose the confidence he had in qualifying. Was on pole by 0.3 of a second, but isn't quite able to match those times here in the race. A time penalty already from pushing too hard. Further back, we've got Alistair going for a move, and Mr. Chiapelli, and now Jack Hickman up the inside of Evan takes the lead of this race here at Canada. Fantastic stuff. And further back, Mr. Chiapelli picks up another time penalty as he tries to defend from Glock and attack Alistair Bain ahead of him. Evan, can he get back through on Jack Hickey into turn 1? He can't. Mr. Chiapelli could do with helping out Aidan Griffiths here and holding up Glock if he can. Glock will want to get through as soon as he possibly can. Mr. Chiapelli spins it! Mr. Chiapelli spins at turn 2, and thankfully for Glock, he was just far enough behind to avoid it. He's up to P4 and can now start to close in on Jack Hickey, who now takes the lead of this race, but not what Mr. Chiapelli needs. He's now behind TGP2 fan favourite Cena.
Even if you pick up a time penalty, Alistair, defending to be fucking late.
Well, Aidan Griffiths picks up a time penalty. I wonder if he'll be defending for his life now. He goes up into P9, now just 0.4 adrift of Court. You can see Court right on the back of Manatee, who is now behind Phil Bargewell. Phil starting to pull a bit of a gap now to the AlphaTauri on the medium tyres, but with the more confidence in this stage of the race. So easy to get corner cut penalties here at this circuit, as Court almost taps the back of Manatee. If you enjoy watching Manatee and Court race side by side, well then join us in 2 months for the same again in GT as they go side by side, the leading two in this race, and Alistair fighting for the win as well. Jack Hickey in a fight he doesn't need to be involved in. He needs to just stay clear. Alistair Bain's fighting for the win here. Top 3 separate by 0.5 of a second. Will Evan go for a move up on the inside of turn 1? He doesn't. Alistair Bain right with these two. Alistair could win this race, but this is not what any of these drivers need, because Glock is now within a second of the race lead on the slower tyres. Glock, you have to say, is looking very good to win this in the second half of this race. CJH 2.5 seconds adrift in 5th. We've got Phil closing up now to the back of him as Court continues to try and get closer and closer to Manatee, but unable to do anything at the moment, with Manatee getting the DRS from Phil Bargewell, whose tyres now are starting to go on him a little bit. Of course, he's going to have to take his tyres further than these drivers on the soft tyres. Doesn't need to rush anything here. But Glock just taking his time here, just sitting behind Alistair, doesn't need to make any mistakes. We saw Mr. Chiapelli spin.
The lead car, decide when you want.
We saw Mr. Chiapelli spin early on. Unfortunately for him, is now down in P12. Only going to score 3 points as things stand, but we saw him spin and Glock avoid it because he was just far enough behind to avoid any possible incident. Will we see any of the leading trio hit this time round? All 3 of them staying out for one more tour of the circuit. Glock also staying out. CJH chooses now to dive into the pit lane, and everyone else staying out other than Aidan Griffin, who I think is coming in as well. So let's see how that plays out for the drivers. Evan all over the back of the Aston Martin driver. as Glock gets a 3-second time penalty. That's not what he needs. Evan and Glock both now with time penalty. If Jack Hickey gets one, Alistair, you have to stay his favourite for this race win. But Glock almost had the race in the bag. I mean, he's fourth, but of course, with the faster tyres at the end, you suspect he'll pull the gap. But now he's got a 3-second time penalty. It certainly makes it a lot more open. He may well still have the fresher tyres at the end, but if there is a safety car or VSC, almost certainly will have the gap to win the race. If there's not a VSC or safety car, now Glock would have to make the passes and also pull the gap. Alistair Bain, 3/10 adrift of Evan. Glock, 3/10 behind Alistair. Alistair now has a glorious chance to get Evan into the final chicane. How hard will Evan make him work for it? Will any of these drivers in the front decide to pit this time? Will Glock actually go for softs to the end? Softs can do a large part of this race. The top four, well, large parts of them stay out. Glock now into P3 because Evan dives into the pit lane. That's the way he comes out in comparison with those who have just made their stops. CJH and Aiden, 14th and 15th at the moment. Aiden needed clean air. He's not quite got that. He's got CJH ahead of him within a second. Another one to pick up a time penalty in this race. Evan will come out behind Cena on track, but hopefully for him, ahead of the likes of Ollie and Manatee, the two AlphaTauris. In fact, we've also got Manatee in the pit lane. I do apologise. So it's Jack Hickey who leads this race, and Evan has come out behind Ollie. Not what he needs. He needed clean air, and he's not got that. He's now behind a slower AlphaTauri. He'll be hoping he can get a move on, but unfortunately for him, he's on the medium tyres too, so he needs to make the move. Very reminiscent of when we saw Hamilton stuck behind Leclerc for a lap in Mexico at the weekend. Now Evan is stuck behind Ollie for a lap here in Canada, and this could be great news for Alistair and Jack Hickey should they pit now, but they don't need to pit necessarily. They're both in clean air, so why pit themselves and come out on this traffic that Evan finds himself in? In fact, it's probably better both the lead and two staying out, I have to say. But here comes Glock now, just 3/10 behind Alistair, and unfortunately for Alistair, doesn't have the DRS himself. Glock takes the position and up into P pits. Alistair Bain likewise, and Glock now taking the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. But both of those drivers are going to come out in traffic. Phil Bardwell yet to make a stop in this race, also on the medium tyres. Cena and Ollie fighting for 5th and 6th, and Evan's still stuck behind the pair of them. I can't see how Alistair and Jack don't come in this fight too. Thankfully for Alistair, Ollie and Cena both pit. That's without a treat for both Alistair and Jack. They leave the pit lane, but is Evan going to be ahead of both or behind both? It's going to be very close. On the run down to turn 1, you can see Evan just about. It's going to be side by side with Jack. He's just going to be behind, and Alistair Bain will be behind him. So Alistair slots in behind Evan. It's as they were a lap ago. Alistair around these trio of drivers once again. Phil Bardwell, time penalty.
Bullshit.
Is everybody pitted?
Glock and Phil are yet to make a stop in this race.
So me and Kieran pitted early and have actually jumped a couple of drivers.
Look how strong round here.
Aidan Griffin's made the most progress so far on this race. 6 positions gain, needs to gain on CJH sooner rather than later, but we know CJH makes it very hard for the drivers to try and get through. The Alfa Romeo holding on to 8th for now. Looks like Alfa Romeo themselves are out of the constructors' fight. They're not going to do it. Glock and Phil have dived into the pit lane, so both those drivers are going to be very close to the leading trio of Jack, Evan and Alistair. And of course, both those drivers are going to go on the medium tyres. Aiden up the inside of CJH into the chicane. Needs to be careful. There's a Constructors' Championship on the line. And what a move, Aiden Griffins up into PA. Look forward to watching that back on Aiden tyre lights. Fantastic move from the Red Bull driver. Glock goes wide. Glock goes off the circuit. Glock's gone off the circuit, exit the pits. And that means Alistair can stay ahead. Evan picks up another time penalty in this race, but Glock was side by side of Alistair himself. Glock just went wide coming up the pit lane, maybe carrying too much speed. And because of that, now finds himself a second and a half back from the Red Bull driver. The Red Bull driver needs to get within a second of Evan. Kieran's up to P5 here. Dan the Man's in 6th, coming back into this race. Aidan Griffin's in 7th for the time penalty himself, but most drivers have time penalties. Suspect Court and Roy will both gain places towards the end of this race. Manatee now behind Phil Bardwell once again, but Phil on the quicker tyres. What can Court do? Getting a bit of a dress rehearsal for TGP GT in 2 months' time. Hopefully, Court can give Manatee a fight this season. But for now, in TGP1, he remains behind Manatee, but further ahead, you can see Phil Bardwell all over the back of CJH. CJH will want to defend this position. He gets DRS to help himself, but Phil Bardwell up the inside will have the quicker tyres, the better traction surely through on the inside. CJH turns in on Phil, and Phil's been spun round, so I'm not sure, maybe he didn't see Phil there. Phil's been spun round, and I don't know if Phil was alongside or not, but it looked like Phil was, to me, was side by side, and well then, that's not what Phil needed. Phil, I would actually what your thoughts are on that, but I won't for the benefit of the stream. Court still 3/10 behind Manatee. And CJH maybe going to the stewards after that one for the incident with Phil Bargel, who now finds himself in P11. And there's an Alpha Tower. He's spun in the back. Unfortunately for Ollie, it's him. And he's almost spun again trying to save it. But drivers not with time penalties are going to come in handy towards the end, you have to say. But surely this time Glock is going to get through on Alistair. He's now just 4/10 behind. 8 laps to go in this race. If he can clear Alistair here, has a very strong chance of taking this win. A fantastic hairpin it was for Glock. He's going to be all over Alistair before he gets to the DRS zone. I think Alistair's going to have to maybe just let him go and go again on the start finish straight into turn 1. Oh, right to the wall, and Glock just about gets through. He finds the room. There was only enough room for a car length, and thankfully for Glock, he made it work. He's through into P3. Easy stuff in the end, and Alistair can't do anything about it. Now Evan is racing Jack Hickey for the race victory. 3/10 in it. Glock and Evan, of course, with time penalties in this race. Jack Hickey might be better off here, just sort of staying ahead of Evan, making sure Evan remains ahead of Glock. If Evan has DRS, then Glock should not be as much of a threat to him as he was to Alistair. But Alistair, P4 at the moment, would still get a very strong result. There's a yellow flag in the middle sector. I'm not quite sure what for is. Jack Pearson maybe had a mistake out there. Looks like he has. Of course, the safety car now would really impact Glock. I thought a safety car would help Glock, but in fact it would be the worst possible thing now, because he would have to have the field behind bunch up, and the likes of Alistair and Dan, and of course Court and Roy would all gain places at the end, as they do not currently have time penalties. But Glock now just sitting behind the leading
Kieran!
two.
Oh my god!
Kieran may have made a mistake. He has made a mistake. He's facing the wrong way. Oh my god, Manatee, careful. And Kieran now down to P10. Not what he needed in this race. Is Evan close enough to Hickman? It's going to be a long final 6 laps for Jagger. The Fry at least has DRS on the run out to turn 1, but Glock will try and go up the inside maybe. He's going to go for it. Is he on the inside? Thinks better of it. Great race in between the front three. Alistair's dropping back quite a bit. Maybe just settling for P4. It's a good call, maybe the time penalties. Bit of Glock.
Is that me lagging or Dom?
No, it's
Dom.
Oh no.
Carry on.
Jack Hickey leads this race.
Trouble. I'm in big trouble. Glock and Evan side by side.
Glock's into P2. Easy stuff. We can now start the chase down Hickman. Aiden takes Dan for P5.
Dan, see if they do catch you. Hold them up, please.
Phil Leclerc.
Yeah.
And
And Court, etc.
That's right. Well, I want to try and stay within 6 seconds of you and not get a penalty.
Oh, that's right. I'm about to get 9, so you're alright.
Jack needs
I
to
know
keep
the
Glock.
player might go to the stewards, but it's for like Court, etc. I need the points.
We've got a yellow flag in sector 1. Ollie spun round again. Am I lagging anyone?
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit, but not as much as before. My rear left's on 31%.
Alison, if I catch up to you, I won't pass. I'll just choose you to the DRS. Never mind.
Oh.
Fuck's sake.
I'm 1-1 away.
4 laps to go. Jack needs to keep Glock back for as long as he can, because as soon as Glock gets through, he will start to pull the gap he needs to suspect. And he needs to pull 3 seconds if he is to win this race, unless Jack himself picks up a time penalty too.
I can still get the clear. Dom, what are the penalties?
I'm not sure, but everyone's got a penalty other than Alistair, Jack, Dan, Court and Roy. We'll have to have a look at the times, but...
Fucking fuck.
It's 9 seconds for
Paul's
Aiden,
got one
6
now.
for Evan, 6 for CJH, and then 3 for everyone else. Other than Mr. J Value has 9, not what he needed.
I'm loving this DRS, Aiden.
Ooh, Glock very twitchy through the final chicane, and now because of that, Hickman leads the race for yet another lap in this race. Let me know when I stop lagging, by the way.
A little bit.
Everyone's getting penalties here.
Ah,
Down the mound with another one. Or with the first. Alistair would get P3 at the moment. Glock gets another time penalty. Alistair would get P2 at the moment. I wonder if Jack will let Glock go, because Glock now has 6 seconds of the time penalties. Jack, you suspect, is still better off keeping him behind for as long as he can to make sure maybe the likes of Evan Alistair can get him. But Glock now with a move on Jack Hickey. Jack Hickey doesn't do much to defend. Glock takes the lead of the race, but now has to pull 6 seconds in 2 laps.
my rear tyres are dead.
Oh,
fucking
CJH
man.
straight into the back court. Not quite sure what he was doing there. Outbroke himself massively. And CJH has spun round, caught a very poor move from the Alfa Romeo driver. Caught now down to P10. And I suspect CJH will be getting a time penalty for that one. That's for sure.
Ah, it's such a good race.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, cool. This is P9 and P10 is a group that's ruined by CJH.
Well, Alistair, 6.7 off the lead of Glock. If Alistair can find 7/10 of a second, he will beat Glock and take P2 in this race, but he doesn't want to push too hard and lose himself all the points. But now Glock under attack from Hickey. The soft tyres have started to go for the Haas driver. And as Glock gets put under more and more pressure, Alistair can start to pull that gap down. 6.7 at the moment. 6.6 it is now. If Alistair can find 6 more tenths, he takes P2 in the race.
Got so much ERS to use. I haven't used it for like the last 5-6 laps.
Aiden would drop to 7th at the moment in the Red Bull. He'd be jumped by Manatee, but would stay ahead of CJH. And with CJH likely to get a penalty anyway, you suspect that he will not be a problem for Aiden. Your flag is headed one. Evans round! Evans gone off, and that means Alistair will go into a net P3. That allows Aiden and Dan to catch up too. That's not what he needed, is a Glock. Needs to be careful not to get another time penalty. Another time penalty puts Glock down to P3, but Jack Hickey is just going to sit behind the Haas driver. He's going to take the win regarding any other sort of final mistake in this race. But Glock will cross the line to at least finish first on the road, but time penalties, he suspects, will lose him as Jack Hickey going to go for a move on Glock. Glock defends. Jack goes for the lead of the race. Jack takes the position, and Glock worked him a lot harder there. But if Alistair can get close to that, Alistair could pinch P2 because Jack Hickey obviously slowed up Glock there a little bit by making the move. Glock takes P2 in the race, and Alistair Bain just misses out by a second. It's P3 for Alistair Bain. Evan will finish P5.
Yes.
Down the man takes 4th. Evan 5th at the moment. Manatee, I expect, will take P5, though when he crosses the line, he goes 6th, just misses out. In fact, Aiden 7th, CJH 8th, Phil Bargewell in P9. Cena should get 11th ahead of his teammate, Mr. Chiapelli. Court takes 10th in the end. I suspect that'll be up to P9 following post-race penalties.
I was gonna overtake you at the end there, but I was like, I'll just hold back. I think Kieran's going for the fastest lap here at the very end. Who's got the fastest lap at the minute?
I suspect it might be Glock. So if Kieran can take it away from Glock, he would get the point for himself and would of course help the championship battle. And Kieran gets a time penalty on the final lap, but is it enough
still
still?
on the radio now. Horner's on the radio to Glock saying, "You got fastest lap, mate." Although I don't know if Kieran got it or not.
Ow.
Telephone.
I'm getting a call again.
Oh, Isaac's calling court. Well done, brother. What a result. Fantastic.
I could have been P5.
Why would he be calling them from
then.
the same room?
That's true, that's true.
Oh, he did get fastest lap.
He did get
Kieran.
fastest lap.
Court then
Well,
finishes 10th. Cena did get 11th ahead of his teammate. Ollie was 13th with Kieran 14th and with the fastest lap of the race. P15, no points unfortunately for the one and only Jack Pearson. Jack Pearson was the one that finished P15. Well, what a race then.
Needed.
Glock and Hickey once again score the same number of points, just like they did last week, and the gap is still 8 points with 2 weeks to go. But what a performance from the Rebel drivers, picking up a combined 44 points, just one more than Glock managed himself has. Manatee, a good night for him, also for Evan, and we're back next week for hopefully a brand new venue at Saudi Arabia. If not, we'll have a brand new event at Imola. Anyway.
Hopefully Dom's internet will return next week.
Someone do the outro, someone do the outro.
We're back next
goodbye.
week for possibly Jeddah. If it's not Jeddah, it'll be Imola and Spain.
Yes, see you then. Bye bye.